Hello, beautiful people. How are you? How are you doing today? I am Cheryl Wayfree, and I am here to do a video series with you on my top 7 ways free. My Wayfree ways, and I have many of these, not just 7. I have probably hundreds of different ways and shit tips, maybe. I don't think they're tips. They're actually ways. They're ways and techniques, and I call them the Wayfree ways. They're ways that I use to keep me at my best, to keep me at my best self, to keep me in my best mood, to keep me in my best energy, to keep me in a frequency of my best. And I have accumulated many ways of doing that throughout the years. I've picked up a bunch from other people. I've read lots of books, but more than anything, it's me implementing them into my own life, testing out ways and things and techniques that work best for me. And I put them to use. I tried them out and I put them to use, and they work, and they show up every time I need them to when I actually put in the action and the time to make them work. So I want to share these 7 Wayfree ways with you to see if maybe you can adapt some of these ways into your own life and then call them your own however you want to, or tweak them, or pull pieces out of them, or take them 100% yours and run with it the way I do. So however you choose to use them, I hope that they will be something that you will implement into your life, and that they will cause you to see difference and change and transformation in the areas that you want to see it. And until we start implementing and using and acting on the things that we've been taught and learned and absorbed, it's just information, it's just knowledge, and it's just not yours yet until you put it into action. So take these and use them how you can, because they will change your life. They will offer a transformation if you put them to work. So with that being said, I'd like to offer my very first top 100%, the number one, Wayfree way, or anybody's way, but I call them Wayfree ways. My top number 1 way to transform your life, number 1 transformational tool, let's just call it that, is mindset. Your mindset is 100% the first thing you have to do and change and transform in order to transform and change your life, is your mindset. You have to get it out of the set spot that it is in. And that's why it is a mindset. So I would like to offer you these 7 tips. And the first one is the mindset. You have to be willing to change your mindset. And I'd like to tell you a little story about how I came across this originally and just really didn't understand and didn't see so much how powerful it was until much later in life. So the story is, I can remember being, I believe 12, maybe 11, 12, somewhere in there. And I was living with my grandparents. My parents were having some rough times, and our kids, some of us were living with them and some of them weren't. And I was living with my grandparents. And I believe I was 11 or 12. It was probably 93, maybe 94, somewhere in there. And my grandpa being a very big part of my raising in that time period, a very active part of my life. And he was very strict. He had very strict, I don't want to say they were guidelines or rules or boundaries, because they kind of weren't. They were very strict discipline. He had very strict discipline. And it wasn't discipline on right and wrong and things like that. It was more on behavior and ways of conducting your life and choices. And because I was only 11 or 12, and because I had been raised by my parents, who raised me very differently than my grandpa, that it wasn't very clear to me. So I saw it more as rules and being told no and being judged and really just the conflict of the way of being, because I was so used to being totally different with my parents in control, and my parents, doing the raising and the teaching. And with my grandpa, it was very different. So it isn't that there was nothing bad in it. If anything, it was definitely positive, and it has created so many of the baseline techniques and baseline feelings that I have for so much of what I use in my life now. But at the time, when I went from being with my parents in a much looser way of being, And more so, theirs was more punishment rather than discipline. So my parents were more like, do this, do that, and if you don't, you get punished. Whereas my grandpa was more like, do this, do that, because it'll create better habits. It'll create a better life. It creates more harmony. It creates more assurance. You know what I mean? So there was definitely, you have to do this, you have to do that on both sides, but my grandpa's was different. So it was positive and it was encouraging, but it was so different from what I was used to that it created such a conflict in me. And being 11 or 12, it created anger and it created frustration and resentment and all these other things because I was being redirected. I was being my mindset was being changed. But it wasn't really yet because my mindset was stuck on the way that my parents had done and the way that my parents had instructed. Whereas my grandfather had a different way of doing it, and he was trying to implement these things and trying to implement discipline into my life rather than punishment. And that was new to me. So it made me angry. It created so much inside of me, and I knew it and I could feel it. And this was at a point in my life when I very much so was searching and looking and believing in religion and faith at that point, and really trusting the direction that my parents had been teaching. So I did nighttime prayers, and I remember at night sitting and praying and thinking about my grandpa. And then after my prayers at night, I literally would sit and be like, I can't stand him. I just can't stand how he is. I can't stand how he tells me what to do and how he teaches me all this stuff all the time. But I didn't see it as teaching. I saw it as harassment. One thing that stuck out to me so much when I was young was he used to tell me it's just as early to be 1 minute early as it, or it's just as easy. That's what he said. Just as easy. It's just as easy to be 1 minute early as it is to be 1 minute late. I thought that was the most absurd thing I'd ever heard when I was young. And it was like, no, it's not. If it was easy to be here early, I would have been here early. So clearly it's not as easy. But what I didn't understand is he was trying to teach me the discipline of when you want something and you want to do what somebody tells you, or you want to be on time, or you want to be early, that you can make that intention and effort to do that and be there early rather than making no intention and effort and just getting there whenever. But as a kid, I didn't understand that. And there was lots of things in that department that he taught me or said, but at the time it was a conflict. It was a conflict of the way I was being, and what I had been raised. So my mindset had been stuck somewhere else. So this just didn't make sense to me, and it angered and upset me. And so finally one night doing my prayers, and like I said, I used to sit there and chant about how much I couldn't stand my grandpa and what a jerk he was and all these things. And I had just this, finally, I was like, this just isn't right. This just isn't right that I just sit here and have this mindset about this and think this about my own grandpa. He can't possibly not stand me. He can't possibly not like me. So what is the problem here? And I realized it's my mindset. I can't even learn or understand what he's trying to tell me because my mindset is stuck in a place of thinking he's being a jerk. And it's stuck in where I was with the way my parents had taught me. So now being 11 or 12 years old, I could start seeing that his way was right, but it still pissed me off. It still made me mad. But, I had to decide. And so I did. I decided from now on, I'm not going to sit here and chant about how much I can't stand my grandpa. I'm not going to sit here and go through this list of reasons of why he's just this jerk in my life right now. I just decided I'm going to not do that. And so... Oh, look at that. Beautiful polish. Don't notice that. Anyways, so I decided that I was going to change my mind about it. I was going to change my mind and change my thinking of how I felt about my grandpa and the nightly chants I did to scream out my frustration. So I decided to change my mindset. I decided to love him. I decided to accept what he was trying to do and receive it with love. And it wasn't until much, much, much later in life that I could look back at that time in my life and that situation and realize, oh my goodness, I struggled and had the feelings I did because I was in a mindset and I had to decide to change my mindset. To gain to gain the feelings and freedom I wanted in life towards him or towards my life or the things I was doing or whatever it was, but it was definitely a mindset thing that had to occur. So now that I'm older and later in life had realized this, I was able to put that into action with everything else. So I tell you this story to tell you that by the time my grandfather died and long before that, I loved him, and I could see so much of what he did was because he loved me and because he was trying to show me discipline for life, not letting it go until he had to punish me, for something. He wanted to teach me and discipline me, as in teaching me discipline for my own life. And I had to have the mindset to accept and receive it before I could. So it's the same thing now in life. If there's anything that you're struggling with, if you're struggling with your weight, if you're struggling with your marriage, if you're struggling with relationships, if you're struggling with finances, things that you struggle with, it's most often because of our mindset around it. Because once we correct the mindset and find what works, it's no longer a struggle. So it is the very most important thing is to change your mindset. And it's a hard thing to do sometimes without assistance because it's like, where am I supposed to change my mindset to? What am I supposed to change it to? And it can be strugglingly hard. It can be impossible by yourself sometimes, or feel impossible by yourself. But the minute you can accept that your mindset must change for other things to change, the rest of your life can change and turn into everything that you've been looking for. So the number one thing is mindset. It takes work, it takes focus, it takes attention, it takes commitment to yourself. But the minute you decide that you want to transform your life, and the minute you decide that you want to live and be and do everything you dream about, then the very first thing to do is to decide that it's going to take a different mindset and start seeking that out. And the biggest thing is to let go of so many things that you've believed or been taught or think what other people think or believe, or it's so irrelevant, so irrelevant. So I don't want to take tons of time on this video, but I just wanted to put it out there. So the very number one Wayfree way is mindset, to control everything else in your life. And then not really control, but to put things in alignment with you and functioning for you and profiting for you and connecting you to all the things that you want to be connected to. It's in your mindset. And we have a million blocks in there and a million things that hold us back that we have to work through sometimes, or dig out, or throw away, or whatever it is. But there is a way to do it. And if you do not know this way, then seek it out, find it. And if this is foreign to you and you're like, mindset, what? I've never even heard of what are you talking about? Change my mindset. Well, then let's talk, because I guarantee you, if you've never heard of changing your mindset, perhaps it's time that you work on changing it. So otherwise, take this tip, use it, think about it, adjust your mindset to the most open, learning, expanding, possible, free, loving, all those things that you could adjust your mindset to will take you in such a different direction. So there you have it. My top number one Wayfree way is your mindset, and adjusting and correcting and putting your mindset and maintaining your mindset is the number one thing to your transformation of getting the life that you want and the people and the interactions and the experiences you want to have. It is 100% starts in your mindset. You got to set your mind where you want it. That's why it's a mindset. So I hope this helps you. I hope it opens your mind to a different possibility of life and what there is out there. I know before I could completely embrace that my mind was the number one steerer of the ship. That, I was constantly this way and then constantly this way and constantly back this way. But the more and more I could focus in and realize, holy shit, everything I'm thinking has to do with everything that happens in my life. So the more that this is operating, this is like, oh, no wonder there's a disconnect. So the more you can line up your mindset, and the more you can clarify your mindset, and the more you know what you want and where you want to be and what you want to experience in life, and get clear on the mindset and the projection and the trajectory of what that is, you're going to be off the charts, unlimited. It's unlimited, totally unlimited, once you realize the possibilities and realize that your mind is oftentimes, most oftentimes, the one and only thing stopping you. So there it is, the number one Wayfree way for me, and for I guarantee is for you, is mindset. So number uno, Wayfree way, mindset. So alrighty, I'm gonna let you go. I will be back on here and give you another Wayfree way in a day or so. Process this. I'm gonna do a few videos about this one and see if we can clear up a few things, but I just wanted to throw it out there for you on this little tidbit and see if that can get you going in a good direction. So I will catch you guys later. I am Cheryl Wayfree, and I hope you enjoy this video series on my top 7 Wayfree ways. And this being the number one top one, which is mindset. See you guys. Have a great day. I'll check you later.